Good morning. Okay, so we're back at Ciphernoon, and the last two episodes we have gone through Codecademy's lesson, their course on HTML, pretty quick. So we're in the last third of it, and we're starting on tables today. So let's get to it. Okay, create a table. Before displaying data, you must first create the table that will contain the data using the table element. The table element will contain all of the tabular just is like tabular data you plan on displaying. It pretty much just means data in a table. Okay, so in index.html, create a table. So let's see where. We want to do it, I think, down here after this div tag. Open table tag. And as per usual, we'll close the table tag really quick. I always do that because otherwise I'll just probably forget to do it at the end. So it makes me feel good to have it all done one time. Awesome. Next. Table rows. In many programs that use tables, the table is already predefined for you, meaning that it contains the rows, columns, and cells that will hold data. In HTML, all of those components must be created. So if you're using Word or Google Docs or something and you made a table, it will make all those things for you. So the first step in entering data into a table is to add rows using the table row element tr. In the example above, 2 rows have been added to the table. Awesome, so add 2 rows to the table in index.html. So we're going to go down to our table here and we're going to add the first row open and close tag and the second row open and close tag. Perfect. Okay, rows aren't sufficient to add data to a table. Each cell element must also be defined. In HTML, you can add data using the table data element td. In the example above, 2 data points, 73 and 81, were entered in the one row that exists. By adding 2 data points, we created 2 cells of data. So just, two cells, 2 squares on the table. If the table were displayed in the browser, it would show a table with 1 row and 2 columns. In the second row, add 3 cells of data. So that's the first row, and the second row, add 3 cells of data. The cells should contain the following data in order: Adams Greenworks, 14, and package items. So this is the second row down here. We're going to add the first data cell. We're going to say Adams Greenworks, close data cell, open, 14, and package items. Great. Run it. Perfect. Okay, table headings. I heard noise outside. Table headings. Table data doesn't make much sense without titles to describe what the data represents. To add titles to row and columns, you can use the table heading element th. The table heading element is used just like a table data element, except with a relevant title. Just like table data, a table heading must be placed within a table row. So there's the row, there's table heading cell, another one, end of row. So what happened in the code above? First, a new row is added to hold the 3 headings. A blank heading, that's this one, a Saturday heading, and a Sunday heading. The blank heading creates the extra table cell necessary to align the table headings correctly over the data they correspond to. In the second row, 1 table heading was added as a row title, temperature, right there. Note also the use of the scope attribute, which can take one of the 2 values, row or call. Row makes it clear that the heading is for a row, and col makes it clear that the heading is for a column. HTML code for tables may look a little strange at first, but analyzing it piece by piece makes the code more understandable. In the first row, add 3 table headings. The headings should contain the following data in order. These headings will add meaning to the rest of the data in the table. Okay, so we need to add, to go down here, we need to, in the first row, add 3 table headings. So 1, 2, 3. Perfect. And then they wanted us to add company name, and then number of items to ship, and next action. Perfect. Okay, table borders. So far the tables you've created have been a little difficult to read because they have no borders. In older versions of HTML, a border could be added to a table using the border attribute and setting it equal to an integer, a whole number. This integer would represent the thickness of the border, like so. The code in the example above is deprecated, so please don't use it. It is meant to illustrate older conventions you may come across when reading other developers' code. So, if you look at older code, you might see this, but it doesn't want you to use that because they don't use that anymore. Yeah, I remember using that a lot, and actually when you would do that, the default border that you would get on tables was this weird kind of blue outline that looks kind of transparent, in a sense that it would have borders, but they wouldn't be filled in, they'd look kind of like it was weird actually. It's hard to describe. It had this very old computer look to it. I should see if I can find an example or something. The browser will likely still interpret your code correct if you use the border attribute, but that doesn't mean the attribute should be used. Instead, you can use the same effect using cascading style sheets, CSS. The code in the example above uses CSS instead of HTML to show table borders. Great. So we're going to need some more data in the table. Add the following data to the table. Make sure to place it after the second table row. Wow, they just want us to copy and paste all of that. Ooh, let's go. Okay, we'll do it to about there, and then we'll go back to it. Okay, so we'll go down, this is after the second one, and then to ship, that row was the last row that we did, and then we'll do this last little row. Okay. Perfect. Let's see all the pretty data that's in our table over here now. Cool. Next. Spanning columns. What if the table contains data that spans multiple columns? For example, a personal calendar could have events that span across multiple hours or even multiple days. Data can span columns using the call_span attribute. The attribute accepts an integer greater than or equal to 1 to note the number of columns it spans across. In the example above, the data out of town spans the Monday and Tuesday table headings using the value of 2 columns. The data back in town appear only under the Wednesday heading. Great, okay. So in index.html, span a TD element across 2 columns. Okay, so it wants us to make one of these data cells. We'll say It'll look weird if it shows up, but that's what they want us to do. Yeah, so now you can see Adam's green work spans both of these columns and it pushes the other ones over. Okay, spanning rows. Data can also span multiple rows using the row span attribute. The row span attribute is used for data that spans multiple rows, perhaps an event goes on for multiple hours on a certain day. It accepts an integer greater than or equal to 1 to denote the numbers of rows it spans across. Great. In the example above, there are 4 rows. The first row contains an empty cell and 2 column headings, right here. The second row contains the morning row heading along with work, which spans 2 rows under the Saturday column. The relax entry spans 3 rows under the Sunday column. The third row only contains the afternoon row heading, and the fourth row only contains the dinner entry since relax spans the entire into the cell next to it. If you'd like to see how the browser interprets the code above, feel free to copy and paste it in the code editor to understand it a little better. An index HTML span a TD element across 2 rows. Okay, so let's go back to the Adam's green work. So instead of call span, I'm just going to turn this into row span. So instead of going across this way 2, it should go this. It should span 2 this way. Okay. There you go. Perfect. Next. Okay, so over time, a table can grow to contain a lot of data and become very long. When this happens, the table can be sectioned off so that it is easier to manage. Long tables can be sectioned off using the table body element tbody. The tbody element should contain all of the table's data, excluding the table headings. More on this in a later exercise. Awesome, okay. So in the example above, all of the table data is contained within the tbody element, so they added the opening tbody here and the closing tbody here. It says, note however that the headings were also kept in the table's body. We'll change this in the next exercise. So these headings here are in tbody, but they're going to change it next time, is what they're telling us. Okay, so enclose rows 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 of the table in a tbody element. So we're going to go down, and then I'm going to take out this row span too, because that's going to bother things. Here. Okay, so 2 to 6. So we're going to skip this first row here. We're going to leave that. And then we're going to put open, tbody tag, and then we'll go down to here, and then we'll do the close tbody tag. Perfect. Table head. In the last exercise, the table's headings were kept inside of the table's body. When a table body is sectioned off, however, it also makes sense to section off the table headings using the t-head element. In the example above, the only new element is t-head. The table headings are contained inside of this element. Note that the table head still requires a row in order to contain the table headings. So there is the t-head tags that they added to enclose this first row, which contains all the headers. Leaning to one side, I should sit up straight. Okay. Enclose the first row of the table. Okay. Oh no, I didn't. Okay. Enclose the first row of the table in a t-head element. This is great. We're blazing along. Here. So there's the first row right here. So we're going to t-head, and then we'll close it. Close t-head. Run it. Perfect. Oh, look, it added some styling to it too. I guess there's something in this style.css that's doing it. Nice. Okay. Table footer. The bottom part of a long table can also be sectioned off using the t-foot element. In the example above, the footer contains the totals of the data in the table. Footers are often used to contain sums, differences, and other data results. Add a table footer to the bottom of the table using the t-foot element. Inside the footer, add the following data. Okay, so we're going to copy that first set. We're going to go down to the table. So after t-body, we're going to do t-foot, open and close. And then we're going to make a table row, open and then close. And then we're going to put the data cells that they wanted, those two that they gave us. Perfect. Looks good. And there's our footer that showed up there. Okay, next. Wow, this is going to be a short lesson. That's great. We're doing so good. Okay, styling with CSS. Tables by default are very bland. They have no borders, the font color is black, and the typeface is the same type used for other HTML elements. You can use cascading style sheets, CSS, to style tables just like how you would have done in the past. Specifically, you can change the style. You can change style the various aspects mentioned above. Okay. The code in the example above demonstrates just some of the various table aspects you can style using the CSS properties you learned about earlier. So we didn't learn about them because we haven't done CSS yet, but that's okay. So here, this is probably pretty confusing if you haven't learned CSS. So CSS, we'll go over this in another class. It's a little weird that they are referencing it here, even though they say that HTML is one that everyone starts with. They're talking like we've already done CSS, which we haven't done. But okay, so I'm going to point this out really quick. In this HTML file, you see, oh, there's the doc type, there's the HTML, the head, the title, and this is what we want to look at. So you see this here, this link, href style.css, type text css, rel style sheet. That is basically, that code is telling the web page, go get your styling information from style.css, okay? So in style.css is a bunch of things listed that change the way this looks. So this is all CSS code, and you can technically put CSS code directly into your HTML file, but it makes more sense to make another specific file and link it so that you can make changes across multiple pages without having to change every HTML page, just updating the one CSS file. So here, you're basically telling the CSS for every table element, TH element, and TD element, I want the border to be 1 pixel thick, I want it to be solid, and I want it to be black. I want the font family for all of these things, but the font family is just like what kind of font is used for it, to be Arial. Or if Arial is not available, I want sans serif. Serif? Serif. You're also telling it that I want the text align to be centered. Okay? So let's keep going. Okay, so in style CSS, change the font size of all table headings and table data to 18 pixels. So we're going to go here and we're going to look for table headings and table data. We're going to look for TH and TD in here. So there's navigation, that's an unordered list. That's a list element. Let's go down, active table. Okay, so there's a table tag. That's not the one we're looking for. But here, table heading. So we want to change the font size to 18 pixels. And we're going to look for the TD element as well. There's the T row, we don't want that. Here we go. T head, TD, and here. Interesting. Okay, so there isn't a font, you know, up here, there was a font size element in there. That is not happening in in this one, but we need to change this one too, so we're going to add one in. So we're just going to hit enter to hit a new line, and we're just going to copy, well, you can't see anything too. We're just going to copy this, and we're going to copy it down here so that we can make the data cells have that font size as well. So we're just going to do font dash size colon 18 pixels semicolon, and then we're going to run it. Perfect. Yay! Good job. Great job. In this lesson, you learned how to create a table, add data to it, and section the table into smaller parts that make it easier to read. Let's review what you've learned so far. The table element creates a table. The TR element adds rows to a table. To add data to a row, you can use the TD element. Table headings clarify the meaning of data. Headings are added with the TH element. Table data can span columns using the colspan attribute. Table data can span rows using the rowspan attribute. Tables can be split into three main sections: a head, a body, and a footer. A table's head is created with the T-head element. A table's body is created with the T-body element. A table's footer is created with the T-foot element. All the CSS properties you learned about in this course can be applied to tables and their data. Congratulations on completing HTML tables. Awesome. That's it. That's it. We've completed HTML. Yay! Oh. That's super exciting. Okay, so short, a little bit of a shorter lesson today. That's awesome. But we're doing great. We're doing great. So make sure to practice, try some things out, make simple pages. How you would do this, a great way to try this is to open up Notepad if you have a Windows computer. Open up Notepad and write some HTML, use your doc type, declaration, HTML tag, your header, your body. Write things and save it as a .html file, and then open it up in your browser and you can see all the HTML that you've done outside the Codecademy environments. I should make some time to do that. We should make some time to do that together. And then, so next, what we're going to start on next time is we're going to move on to Python right here, which is awesome because I love Python. It's a great programming language, and this Learn HTML went really, really quick with me. You may not have gone as quickly as I did because I've been doing HTML since I was 11. So there are some things that are not standards anymore that were standards when I started, but in general I can read it and understand it and process it pretty quick. But that's not true all the time. Sometimes my brain just blanks or whatever, so you might see me run into trouble with some Python. My brain is not, I love coding. I think programming is great. My brain is much better with languages and symbols and art and things like that. So, which, is one of the reasons why I really like programming, because it trains my brain to think, be extremely detail oriented, extremely simplistically logic oriented, because programming is not simplistic. It can get extremely complicated, but the way the computer thinks is very structured. The way that it will respond to what you're doing is very structured. And so when you're with a human and you're talking to a human, you can improvise a little bit. You can sort of rely on context or more abstract things. But when you're using a programming language, you have to do it in the way that the computer thinks to get it to do what you want to do. So sometimes where I trip up a lot is that area, because I won't always do things in the correct order because my brain thinks it's fine because it can extrapolate on things. But the code doesn't extrapolate on things. It does exactly what you tell it to do. So you might see me run into some trouble, but that's good because that is just more opportunity to practice and just really reinforce those basics. So I'm super excited to start Python next time. So thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next time.